Hello and welcome to the BFSI.com, a dedicated news portal for the BFSI sector by the Economic Times. And today I have with me Rajesh Bansal, the CEO of Reserve Bank of India's Innovation Hub. Rajesh ji, great to have you.
Thank you so much, Amol, for having me.
So, Rajesh ji, to begin with, you have been, getting to the BFSI sector and specifically banking as a whole, the different segments of innovation we had seen earlier, the frictionless product and many other innovations which you launched. Now we also understand that specifically for SHG self-help groups, RBIH has been working constantly in trying to, empower them specifically in the credit segment. So could you just explain us what this new initiative is and how is it shaping up specifically in the banking segment?
So I would like to give a bit of a background for the audience who do not really cued in into the National Rural Livelihood Mission. So it's a Government of India's program, about 15 years old, which today has about 100 million women who are a part of this collectives. These women are driving change in the rural economy. They are actually the pioneers in the way livelihoods and finance in India. So if you look at it, 1 out of 2 households in the country are connected choosing the NRLM framework.
Right.
So there are 1 crore groups with 10 crore members. Now, what has happened is there are 3 phases if you have to appreciate. The first phase is a group is formed. After a group is formed, then the group account has to be opened. So I'll focus more on the banking interaction of these SHGs.
Sure.
So when the group account is opened, it took about 2 to 3 weeks for a account to be opened because 10 women have to go to the branch to open the account. Okay, that is the first issue that we realized. We did a field study in how many 8 states. We realized that is a problem. Secondly, is what we call as phase 2, where, like a chit fund in urban India, we have SHGs borrow among themselves. Suppose 10 of us are SHG members, we will convene once a week and whoever will put in regular savings, and that kitty of savings then becomes something which if I have a priority, I will, borrow in this week and then repay over time. All of this was handled in a purely physical manner with a passbook. Everything is in cash. So about 40,000 crore worth of cash is exchanges hands in rural India in phase 2. Phase 3 is after 6 months, basis the passbook entries, the president and the vice president go to the branch, submit all these papers. And I don't know whether you got a chance to see the 2-minute video that you posted on LinkedIn.
Yes, I saw that.
I told the team, why don't you put a picture of the file which we saw, 2 kgs worth of file, hundreds of documents, and 2 months of paperwork by the bank to finally say, hey, Ms. Vijay Lakshmi, you can get a loan or you can't get a loan.
Right.
So hence we said all of this has to be transformed and changed and brought to a different level because all the digital enablers exist in India. Whether it is eKYC and other digital enablers. Right. So what we did is my team, as I said, we did field research. That is part of our work. We don't start doing anything just because we feel it's a good idea. We identified the 3 phases. What is the challenge? We spoke to hundreds of SHGs. We spoke to the banks. Right. Then let's make this entire process digital. First, account opening using eKYC at your village level. You will get an account open.
Right.
That's a very good thing. So about 15 minutes. Why take 15 minutes? Because we have 10 women who have to do their eKYC. Normally it takes 2 minutes for us individual. So 10 women have to do their KYC. Imagine the power of the 10 women doing their KYC. Because if you relate to the other things I told you, when intra-group loaning happens, suppose when I am all, we lend to each other, in cash, there is no digital record.
Right.
And I might have borrowed from you, 100 times, returned 1 crore. There is no credit history that is built for me. Right. This is unfortunately what is happening with these 10 crore women. There is what I call dark data which a bank cannot use, credit bureau does not have. So when the 10 women open, their individual Aadhaar is linked to the, the group account.
Right.
And when they do loaning digitally,
Right.
the second phase, when you and I want to give a loan to each other in the group, the group president can do what we call as Aadhaar-based authentication with the co-signer, and the money is instantly transferred to the account of the borrower.
Right.
So come on, you realize related to 40,000 crore, everything happening in cash. This is happening. So with Canara Bank, our first implementation partner, that
Right.
is. The third one is even more beautiful. That, and honestly, I'll be very candid here. It took us a long time, more than 6 months, to perfect the third phase.
Right.
That how do you give a loan basis the transaction data? Thanks to Canara Bank support, we realized they agreed that they will run an automated business rules engine.
Okay.
Understand what that is? So automated business rules engine. So imagine you are the president and the vice president of the group. You will get a text after 6 months. Hey Amol, your group is eligible for a loan.
Wow.
Imagine the power of this. Instead of you're struggling to the bank branch and getting a loan, this is automatically going to happen basis the fact that 6 months the data is digitally captured. Basis that the bank runs its rule engine instead of having to struggle. This is why I call it transformational. And this will lead to the banking interaction which is there of these 10 crore women and the country's vision of becoming a developed country. We think it's a big contribution because these women will now be able to take loans easily at a subsidized rates of the RBI and the government of India. They will be able to borrow it seamlessly in a frictionless. They will deploy it for livelihoods creation. I'll stop here, Amol. I'm happy to answer any follow-up questions.
No, agree. I think absolutely there are many. In fact, this sounds really great, and not every bank or the financial institutions,
Thank you.
initially for empowering SHGs, the government was thinking about this. So this sounds really good, Rajesh sir. But let me understand more from you. So obviously you viewed and stitched together the DPI, advantages of DPI, and created the database, and now created their, what you can say, a credit score maybe. How are banks looking at, how are banks actually underwriting the loans, because I'm sure they also must have worked, and how actually you help them create this underwriting model.
Yeah. So on the underwriting model, I would give a clear disclaimer. It is the bank's risk appetite.
Right.
But yes, we did sit with the bank and looked at what is the data that you need in a physical form to assess the credit worthiness. So we said, can we try and digitize that data so that your internal machines and business rules engine can say A, B, C, D, E, F. This is what the score is. Basis that I'm eligible for a loan or not eligible for a loan. Because as we'll talk about it later, in India, the loan sometimes is given basis the dress I'm wearing, whether I'm wearing a suit or whether I'm wearing a dhoti, or anything which is not very, I don't look like a fancy gentleman. So we want to remove discretion of the local branch intermediaries and actually lead to rule-based, loans.
So that's really meaningful, and there are the great lines that you said about how the banks actually look at the borrowers and follow their own strategies before disbursing loans. But how are banks looking at this particular model? Are they very aggressive? How was your Canara Bank response? What kind of loans they have started disbursing? And in terms of, ultimately banks will look at the business. Do they think that this is going to be another business model for them?
Yeah, that's a good point. You mentioned that obviously there's a lot of push by the government of India on the business model. Our rough estimates show that for reaching out to these 10 crore women, the cost will reduce by 50%.
Okay.
So it makes it more efficient for a bank. It makes it more rule-based. It makes it less, paper intensive, less people intensive. So if we do a detailed cost study, which I'm trying to talk to Canara Bank,
Hmm.
including people cost, you realize that rural India, a lot of branch managers and the staff is just handling papers.
Right.
So
Right.
all of that cost, is taken away. And coming to whether the banks are excited, the good news is yes.
Mhm.
At least five big banks,
Mhm.
the smaller one, five big banks have
Mhm.
shown keen interest, and they are at various stages of integrating. Actually, if I remember, two banks have already signed up that they want to work with us. Other three are just understanding the details, that what is it that they need to do to
Right.
make it happen. So we see a lot of excitement in the banking sector for something like this, makes business efficiency, much better.
So that was quite meaningful. I would like to also know now, how is actually this collaboration working between RBIH and banks? How do you actually help banks, maybe to reach out to SHGs, to disburse loans? Now you said that this five top banks are trying to be in touch with you specifically for this particular model. So how this collaboration will work,
Yeah.
Rajesh?
Thanks for asking that question, because that is see, we at RBIH are people who do not want to just cut ribbon or just do a POC and be happy with it. You know me, we have discussed scale as an other guy. Unless it catches scale, then it's just optics.
Right.
So we have reached out to Ministry of Rural Development, who is a program owner for National Rural Livelihood Mission. We had meetings with them to see how we can collaborate and
Right.
create a multiplier effect. So with NRLM, with SRLMs, because there are state level rural livelihood mission societies, which we have, some are very, very active. So I don't want to name the states right now, but the meeting with the secretary and the entire team took place just a few weeks back. And we are working out a scale up plan on the how NRLM network can be leveraged on the banking side, because we being the RBI subsidiary, it is a bit easier, as you will appreciate.
Mhm. No, sure. So again, you have been working and trying to create a different model through various innovations. What are the new things apart from SHGs that is there in the pipeline? If you could also share, what are the new things on your agenda, if you can expect maybe in next 2 to 3 years?
Next 2 to 3 years, a lot, but maybe I can talk about within a year itself.
Mhm.
So first, I'll talk a bit about the gender work that we do,
Sure.
and this comes under the Sonari work. Sonari, for non-Hindi speakers, is independent women.
Mhm.
So we start this program about 2 years ago, where we looked at the fact that unless half of India, that is all the women in India, and the financial sector providers
Mhm.
do not build gender intentional financial products and processes, they
Mhm.
can only go this far. So
Agree.
this is part of that product. So this is collective lending.
Mhm.
Now, on the savings side, we have two pilots that we have currently launched. One in Gujarat with Federal Bank, which is already launched, that when the women get paid
Mhm.
their milk pouring, can there be a nudge to auto deduct savings? So
Yes.
new savings product, which is assisted mode.
Mhm.
And that pilot has started. We will be happy to share the results. Normally on LinkedIn, which is our most active, we talk about all this. The other one we said, because not just assisted, we also need to look at self-service. Can you
Mhm.
make it seamless?
Mhm.
So a large private bank and
Mhm.
us have collaborated together to develop an as good as an instant FD with
Mhm.
no bank account with that bank.
Right.
The journey is so seamless. We would love to demonstrate. We are hoping by next month, because they are not keen to, as of now, they are saying, boss, let our MD, and then finally we'll have a launch event. Hence,
Right.
I'm not leaving them. But so savings is another aspect on Sonari. So collectives, SHG,
Mhm.
savings, self-service assisted.
Mhm.
And lastly, the important thing that we have is nano entrepreneurs.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there are at least 50 million nano entrepreneurs in India, non-GST.
Mhm.
And of that, I could be here and there because there is no perfect data. Could be
Right.
40 million, 40 to 50 million nano entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
And a lot of them, about half of them are women.
Hmm.
So that the audience can relate to it. It is the bhaji wali, next to my office.
Exactly.
The bhutta wala that I go to
Hmm.
get my corn, which is the season, right? And all of those people in urban, semi-urban, and rural India.
Right.
Now we are conceptualizing and we're currently in the research stage
Hmm.
that a number of them digital trail is getting created
Yes.
because especially in cities like Bangalore and
Hmm.
other places, UPI acceptance has gone up drastically.
Yes.
So the bhajiwala in Noida or Gorakhpur or Lucknow does accept UPI.
Yes.
Now, basis that UPI data, we have spoken to a number of banks. Is that not a good enough indicator to give a micro loan?
Absolutely.
We have realized, Amol, interestingly,
Hmm.
that there are too many frictions in that.
Hmm. Hmm.
We asked, there is account aggregator that exists, why don't you use them? Then lenders tell us that account aggregator system has its own challenges, etc.
Hmm.
Then we have finally realized we need challenger banks and challenger institutions who are hungry to grow instead of incumbents alone.
Right.
So we are tying up with very proactive, agile NBFCs now
Hmm.
to look at women nano entrepreneur loans.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so this is part of the Sonari.
Right.
On the other aspect, before I come to PTPFC, which you have read in the media and lot and the governor announced,
Hmm.
we realize that when we go digital,
Hmm.
there is always a chance of, there being a fraud.
Yes.
Let's talk about everybody gets scammed every day, UPI fraud, this fraud, that fraud.
Hmm. Hmm.
So trust, we have a principle that if we have to deepen and widen finance in the country,
Hmm.
we have to ensure that we build trust.
Hmm.
In order to build trust, we are launching a project which is focusing on mule accounts.
Okay. Okay.
So ultimately, when you and I get scammed,
Hmm.
the money goes into a mule account
Okay.
and the money is moved around.
Hmm.
Done study with about 10 banks, and we realized that the banks, all of them use rule based.
Hmm. Hmm.
So what happens is if you and I are scammed,
Hmm.
money will go into a mule account, which will have in one day 1 crore worth of transactions.
Right.
Although I declared an income of 50,000.
Absolutely.
That is interesting. So
Hmm.
we've done detailed study. We realize that most of the banks have people sitting when their system transaction system flags this, they go
Hmm.
through it, then
Hmm.
call the branch. So
Hmm.
average delay is 2 to 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Time the scamster already walked away with the money, has moved the money all around to 100 other bank accounts.
Right. Right.
So we are working with IIT Kanpur
Hmm.
to develop an AI model that
Hmm.
it can be detected in near real time.
Okay. Okay.
So that is under development. That
Hmm.
is one more project that we are doing.
Hmm.
Then I'm thinking which ones. PTPFC, obviously, so I don't think
Hmm.
I need to detail much on that. Some are early stage, but I'll give you just a sense of the approach that we have. I told you about trust.
Yes. Yes.
So one of
So,
the important things is obviously we try and reduce frauds by using AI and reducing mule account. Improving detection in time, which will really go a long way. This year, we are going to work on that. We
right.
already have 2, 3 banks who are tied up with us, and they are more than excited that if you can help us solve this problem. So again, we are a public policy institution, so
Hmm.
they realize that the benefits that we can bring to the table. Now,
Right.
related to that is if I have a grievance with a bank,
Hmm.
imagine what will happen is it is again, the banks do not have automated systems.
Right. Right.
Although there is a digital footprint of that grievance.
Hmm.
So we are conceptualizing, it's very early days.
Hmm.
We set up an automated grievance addressal system,
Hmm.
which is, a customer can get instant resolution of complaint.
Okay.
through the various channels that exist.
mm, mm,
So let's say you are on the chatbot of a bank and
mm,
you have a, you think you have been charged excessively.
mm, mm.
You can, on the chatbot, like Zomato, like Swiggy, that bhaji was bad, it will instantly resolve the complaint.
Okay, okay.
So that's part of our trust work that we are doing.
Mm.
So this is broadly some
Yeah,
of
no, I
the.
think you have a great layout, and looking forward to all these things happening specifically on the grievance side because that's the need. But one point I just want to learn more on this before I shoot my last question, and that is you mentioned about challenger banks, which I think exist in large numbers in Europe specifically.
Yeah.
So on that point, what exactly do you see? Do you mean by challenger banks? What do you see? And second point that you mentioned was about NBFCs, where you are trying to create nano entrepreneurs specifically in the women segment. What kind of those partnerships are? So these two things that if you could explain more, sir.
Yeah, on the challenger banks, as you are aware that in India there are enough nimble-footed banks
Yes.
who want to reinvent banking, reimagine banking. I'll not name some of them because others will be say we are all reimagining.
Hmm.
Some are saying they are reimagining, but others are reimagining. So
Right.
I feel, and that is what keeps us, ticking.
Hmm.
Thanks to their support, we are able to, because our ideas, I'll be honest in this room,
Hmm. Hmm.
that our idea has to be implemented by FSP, right?
Yes.
Because we are not a lender, we are not a payment company like NPCI. Ultimately, our ideas have to be understood and the bank has to see value. So there
Yes.
are enough challenger banks who do that. So as I told you, we spoke to a few banks, but we
Hmm.
realized some of the banks have a bit of a risk appetite issue in terms of lending to nano entrepreneurs.
Right.
So then we spoke to some of the, as you said, large NBFCs
Hmm.
who want to try out new things.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I will bring in one more project here.
Hmm.
So similarly is gig workers, nano
Yes.
entrepreneurs, gig workers.
Right.
If gig workers is growing, so we realize that there are NBFCs who are keen to serve that segment,
Hmm.
provided we can unlock some data for them, help them think through
Right.
this maze of processes that are involved. And that's why, both these nano and gig workers, we're tying up with NBFCs and technology companies to help. We'll be starting a POC very soon, which
Hmm.
we'll be announcing.
Right.
So look out for this exciting this thing. Yeah.
So certainly very, very meaningful and impactful innovation that I could heard from you. But one important question now, that we have large number of fintechs are doing lots of innovations. Obviously, your agenda and your goal is absolutely different from the fintechs. But again, the theory of innovation is almost the same when it comes to the innovation specifically for BFSI companies. So, what is it that the RBIH is planning to do specifically for fintechs or with fintechs? Because I understand that a lot of fintechs also comes to you, pitch their ideas. So, how is RBIH looking at fintechs and what kind of opportunities do you have specifically for fintechs to work with you?
Yeah. So I would just like to reframe what you said. It's not that our agenda is different from fintechs. Our agenda, a critical part of my agenda is accelerating fintechs in the country.
Absolutely.
And as of for accelerating fintechs, we do a lot of engagements. A lot of our projects, which I am not naming the fintechs right now,
Hmm.
we identify the fintech through a hackathon
Hmm.
and then leverage that fintech
Hmm.
with a partnership with the bank to take the project forward.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's one. We do incubation and acceleration work. We have tie-ups with IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Lucknow.
Hmm.
We have a tie-up with ISB, BITS Pilani, and all of these institutions to create incubation labs
Okay.
and accelerator. So we are currently, I think we have interacted with about, I would say, I think in the last few months, about 100 plus fintechs have participated. More than 100 have participated in our, accelerator programs and incubation programs.
Hmm.
And don't remember the exact number, There's a good number which are now part of the programs. That's one. Secondly, we have tied up with, Department of Northeastern Region
Hmm.
to identify fintech futurepreneurs program, as we call it.
Okay. Okay.
For Northeast, we call it FinNest, Fintech for Northeast.
Hmm.
And with Government of Karnataka, their Department of Education, to again identify fintech futurepreneurs. A student who has a great idea, how can that be nurtured and taken from just talking about it at a coffee shop to actually becoming an idea and a reality?
Right.
So we do acceleration, incubation, futurepreneurs. We do boot camps.
Hmm.
We've done boot camps in about 7 to 8 cities already.
Hmm.
And this is not Delhi, Bombay. We are moving to tier 3 and beyond this year.
Hmm.
We had done one in Meerut and Gorakhpur a few months back, but now we are planning to go all India with this futurepreneurs and boot camp.
Okay.
So think about if you are a student studying in Dharwad,
Hmm.
you have a brilliant idea. How do you take it places?
Exactly.
So this is the enablement where we are doing. And, last year we achieved a lot. I don't have the numbers.
Hmm.
We have a mentor pool, the who's who of the industry, who help us mentor the startups. So we are, our hypothesis is that multiple agencies, really RBI from a regulatory point of view, Government of India, from subsidies and incentives point of view, are doing a lot. Banks on their part are contributing to acceleration. What we are trying to do is create a multiplier effect.
Right.
And create what we call as, a country and a financial system which is agile, Gen Z ready, has trust to take India to a Viksit Bharat, if I can say.
Very meaningful, purposeful. Thank you so much for sharing all that we wanted to know from you, and also giving us actually an idea about what are the projects that RBIH is working on apart from SHG. Thank you so much for your time and sharing this all information, sir.
Thank you, Amol. Thank you.